Last week, I put a video out where I talked about choosing good sounds and how that can help your beats sound a lot more professional. And in this context, a good sound would mean something that an amateur producer would have a hard time creating themselves. I walked you guys through how important effects are when you're trying to achieve this, so today I want to show you guys some really helpful tools when you're trying to get your beats to sound a lot more professional. I'm going to be showcasing some free ones as well as some paid ones, and I'm also going to be offering up my viewers a discount on 2 really powerful effects that can really help your beats to sound a lot more professional. Alright guys, let's start off with some free effects that you can grab right away so you can start to improve your beats. So this is the straightforward sounding loop that we're going to be looking at here. The first one we're going to look at is Valhalla Supermassive. Ever since I downloaded this thing, it's probably shown up in every single one of my beats. Adding Supermassive on top of your sound will help it take up more space in the beat, but it will do so in a more unique way. You guys can hear some of these presets here. We get an effect here that's just far more rich and adds more character to our sound compared to a typical stock delay or reverb. But not only can it help take up more space in your beat, you can also use this to add some color on top of your sounds so they start to take up more additional frequencies in the beat, like this preset here. And you can also take your texture and completely morph it into one big old pad, for example, like this preset here. Or we could get a little bit more experimental with some of the other presets here. So taking a preset like this and just bringing the mix down is a great way to add some depth into your beat, and again, just in a more unique way. But if you just need a straightforward reverb, it's got that in here as well. And you can even use this to really overhaul and manipulate the shape of your sound and come up with something completely new here. So it almost sounds like we have a completely different texture now compared to how this sounds dry. And if you want to make some changes to your effects, it's as easy as changing some of the more important dials here, such as warp, depth, feedback, as well as mode. So whenever I have a very dry, stationary type of sound that's just not doing much work in filling up the beat, I like to use Supermassive and add that on top. So it starts to become more present in more areas in the beat. And of course, using a straightforward reverb or delay in this type of scenario will just end up with a more typical common result, whereas Supermassive will help you achieve a far more unique outcome. Next up, we have another free one, or another free 37 actually. It's the MFX Bundle. So if you download this, they actually give you 37 free effects here, and some of the more notable ones that I want to look at are Frequency Shifter. This is a really powerful tool that can help you change your sound in sometimes extreme ways. So this will provide you with some pretty straightforward effects like detuning your sound, for example. Or if you want to add some chorus on top of your sound as well. But we also have some pretty experimental and aggressive types of presets as well, like this one here. Even just taking some of these effects and peeling back the dry wet just to add a nice layer of character on top of your sound can really help you out. It can really help you make something special out of a very plain and ordinary type of sound. And if you wanted to make some changes to your sound, using the shift knob here can really make a big difference. So I would recommend being a little bit more subtle with this. Also playing around with the shape of your modulation down here. As you guys can see, this is something that you can use to really overhaul and mangle your sound in a really drastic way. The other melda tool that I want to show you guys is MAuto Pitch. Now this is meant to be used as a pitch correction tool for vocals, but we can use this in a more unorthodox way to really help push your sounds. But I should mention this can completely change the pitch of your sounds depending on how extreme you push these options. So you might need to change some of the other melodic components in your beat if you end up using this in an extreme way. And obviously this can be used in a more straightforward fashion for your vocals. This is almost like the Pitcher plugin for FL Studio, but it just has a little bit more features and a little bit more functionality. Personally, I like to use this whenever I want to add some additional harmonics onto my sound. I usually like to use one of these presets here, man from a woman or a woman from a man, depending on which type of sound that I have. And at that point, I just peel back the dry wet. And it'll end up adding a nice layer on top of my sound, so it takes up more room in terms of its frequency spectrum, and it'll do so in a nice harmonious way. Next up, we have another free plugin here. This is Finisher Micro. This is a nice and easy effects tool that you can use if you don't like the idea of having tons and tons of dials that you have to play with, but you still want a nice breadth of choice. This is going to provide you with 25 multi-effects that you can add on top of your sound. So it sort of does the experimenting for you, where each and every one of these options is going to add a bunch of different effects on top of your sound for you. And it ranges from really granular types of reverb effects to more tempo-based gating effects like this one here, to some more traditional effects like vibrato, some flanging and some chorus as well. And at this point, you can just control how much of this effect that you want using this big old dial up here. So as you guys can see, 2 clicks and it's perfect. If you guys know of any other plugins like this, let me know in the comment section below, because I can't really think of any other plugin where it's just 2 clicks and it's perfect. So yeah, a nice little free tool here to quickly add some different types of effects on top of your sounds. But if you guys want a more advanced version of this type of idea, UJAM actually has 2 other tools that can really help your sounds become a lot more professional. And to be perfectly above board, I actually recently became an affiliate of theirs just because these plugins, to me, they're just perfect for what I need to do. They're just so wild and out there and can really help reshape your sounds. But they didn't pay me to include these in this video. Actually, I asked them to forward the money onto you guys and offer up a discount. So for the next 30 days, you guys can get 15% off if you use the codes and the links in the description box below. And they also offer up a 30-day trial so you guys can see if this tool is actually useful for your workflow. So it's really nice of UJAM to provide this for us. The first effect here is called Voodoo. This is a really experimental effect that's meant for guitars, but again, if we use an effect in a non-traditional way, we can have some pretty great results with it. You guys can hear what this thing can do. You can use this to add an entirely new layer on top of your sound so it becomes far more unique than a traditional sound. And it has a bunch of different presets in here that can do this in different ways. We also have effects here that are a little bit more reverby, but still just far more unique and far more interesting than a typical reverb or delay. But they also have a number of more traditional types of effects here. So something like this can help thicken your sound so it takes up a little bit more room in the beat. So you can use this for more traditional utilitarian types of needs as well. This plugin is like a one-stop shop to add a bunch of effects on top of your sound, so they just become far more unique and add so much more character on top of them. And it's really going to help set your sounds apart from the sounds that everyone else is using. And the controls are really straightforward to use as well. We have 50 different modes here, and within each mode we have 5 different dials here to control the different parameters within that mode. And the other effect that we're going to look at by UJAM as well, this one's called Neo. You guys can see it has a ton of different effects here. I personally like to go into the inspiration area, and you guys can just hear what this thing can do to your sounds. Just a lot of variation that you can choose from. This is especially useful for someone like me who just likes to experiment and push their sounds. So yeah, if you guys are interested, head down to the description box and hit the link. They offer up a 30-day trial. And if you do end up buying it, use the code down below because I asked UJAM to give my viewers a nice little discount. Again, it does expire in 30 days from the time this video is released, so you might want to act fast. Personally, I'm a little bit more partial to Voodoo. I just like the way those effects sound, but again, you can just download both of these, try them out for 30 days and see which one you like more. And finally, the last plugin that I want to show you guys here, it's another paid one. This is something that you guys have probably seen me use a lot. It's called Reels. It's a tape emulation plugin similar to RC20 or Waves Cassette. Honestly, all of those options are really good to go with. I just happened to choose Reels just because no one else was using it. And when I first heard of these plugins, I didn't really understand what's the point of them, why are they so useful, but after using them for a long time, I definitely think they're worth the price. And I'm sure you've heard of what these things do, but it might be a little bit difficult to wrap your head around why they're so useful. For those of you that watch my videos, you guys often see that I like to grab an EQ and take all of my sounds and really cut out a lot of the frequencies that aren't really necessary for that sound. And this is useful because in the finished product, when my beat is done, everything will be a little bit more clean. But if you do this, you might notice at times that your sounds will start to feel a little bit cold and detached and lifeless. After all, you did cut a lot of frequencies out, so it might be difficult to make sure that your sounds are still full and robust and contributing to your beat. And that's why these tools are so helpful. They'll add harmonics on top of your sounds so they still have a robust feel to them and like they're still present in the beat. To show you guys this visually, let's say I take an EQ and I add this to the end of my effects chain here. And when I don't have Reels on, this is the frequencies that this sound takes up. But you guys can see as soon as I turn Reels on, we have a bunch of new frequencies that get introduced to our sound. It's not as if this is merely just adding volume to our frequencies that already existed in our sound. This adds more presence to your sound, which is especially helpful when you're trying to make sure the entire frequency range is taken up in your beat. So those are 5 really helpful tools if you're trying to get your sounds to be more professional. If you guys haven't seen my video that I made last week where I showed you guys a few more concepts when you're trying to get your beats to sound more professional, I really recommend checking that video out. It's linked right above my head. And if you guys have enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. Let me know in the comment section below what's your go-to tool if you want to make your sounds a lot more unique and a lot more interesting. My free drum kit is available in the description box below as always, as well as the link to the Discord if you want your beats reviewed live. I do that every 2 weeks, and I will see you guys next time.